there are a lot of debates that are concerning and kind of trade-off, what I have named as a trade-off between intellectual property protection that is dealing to secure the investment from pharmaceutical labs and the necessity to cure and to find a solution against the disease for people. And there are debates related to the status of vaccine as a common goods for health, and there are a lot of debates and, let's say, tensions between pharmaceutical labs and the society. Can put it like this, generally speaking. There are also, I have made some research on this topic, and I have discovered a lot of things, and the fact that this debate is not at all a new one, and there are a lot of legal instruments that can be used in order to, to find an equilibrium regarding this trade-off. So I know I have only 15 to 20 minutes, so I will try to respect this time frame. And I have organized this presentation in 4 points. First, I will go back to the presentation of the market for fighting the COVID-19. So we have, thanks to kind of leaks, especially in Europe. So we have information about the price, and we can assess the benefits that the pharmaceutical labs will obtain thanks to the provision of the vaccine. And then I will talk about one instrument in order to protect intellectual property, and which is the patent system, and especially the patents for COVID-19 vaccine, and how to mix so the legal perspective with the economic one. So we can consider that patent, it's a legal monopoly. Then I will discuss the balance between, let's say, securing investors, but not financial investors, but the companies, so the supply, and securing the population, so the customers and the demand side, and how this balance has changed through times. And then I will go back to the current debates and to start and to open the discussion on this topic. So as I just said, so thanks to kind of leaks, we know we have some information about the negotiations that took place between the European Commission and pharmaceutical labs. So specifically Pfizer and Moderna, which are using a new technology, so the RNA messenger. And we know that, for instance, for Moderna, one shot costs, or has been negotiated, because we do not know really the production cost, but it has been sold at a price of $18. And so the contract has been signed for 160 million shots. So in total, we have a turnover of $3 billion of US dollar. For Pfizer, the total turnover should amount to 15 billion. For AstraZeneca, so it's an other vaccine, which with an other technology, so the price is lower. So it is only let's say 80 euro per shot. And the lab claimed that the price has been fixed in order to cover production costs, so not to gain that much profits thanks to the contract. So we can estimate that for 2021, the global market size for pharmaceutical lab, it's around 30 to 40 millions, so billions of euros. So it's a huge market, but it's difficult to assess really the benefits. In order to secure the investments, and in order to enable companies to get a return of our investment, there are instruments that enable them to I mean, to secure the initial investment. So it is patents. Why? Because normally, under normal circumstances, it takes a couple of years in order to be able to develop a vaccine. And then it will take a couple of years in order to get return of our investment. But with the COVID-19, I mean, the vaccine has been developed in 6 months, and the return and the benefits, it is, I mean, in 1 year. So this year, the companies, they should get benefits. So it's, let's say, a functioning of the market that is completely different. So there is an acceleration of the return of our investments, and it poses debates with respect to the I mean, let's say, to the functioning of the market. So there are some information that we can get from different studies. For instance, there are some analysis that says that consider that the margin they are up to 60% and 80%, and they for Pfizer, for instance, we have some information regarding the earning before interest, and it is estimated to amount to 4 billion in 2021. So the question is, finally, for pharmaceutical labs, is the pandemic a juicy market? So we have seen that there had been a kind of race in order to be the first to be able to find a vaccine with national interest that has been, I mean, very important for that respect. So there have been tensions between the US and Germany, for instance, with respect to that. So it was in June or even in May last year. So it's an issue, and for securing the investment, as I said, so there is the patent, which is traditional legal instruments that will, let's say, that will provide a company with a kind of limited monopoly, and that will enable the companies to get an incentive to invest in research and development, knowing that it's a risky investment. And thanks to the patent, companies will be able to secure the return of our investment. Here, so don't worry, I will not do a class of economics. So I will not start the presentation that we will get afterwards, but it's just what is the economic issue with respect to the patent. So thanks to the patents, the company will get this monopolistic power. And what does it mean? It means that they will have the capacity to fix the price that's, I mean, to some extent, to fix the price that they will settle in order to sell the good. So under normal circumstances, I don't know if you see what I'm doing thanks to the arrow on the presentation, but here on this graph, you've got the supply curve and the demand curve. And under pure and perfect competition, you will get the equilibrium at the intersection of the two curves, and you will be able to get the price and the quantity. When you are under monopolistic competition, the reasoning is a bit different. The company will decide first the quantity, and knowing the quantity, they will fix the price that they will, I mean, it's theoretical, but they will fix the price that they will, I mean, ask people to pay, knowing the quantity that they will produce. And under traditional economics, what we will see is that the quantity under monopolistic competition is lower than under pure and perfect competition. And due to the willingness to pay of customer, the price will be higher. So in the end, we have a price that is higher and quantity that are lower. So that is to say, so it is at the origin of the benefits for the monopoly. But when we are talking about vaccine, so it's innovation that is intangible, there is an issue with respect to that. That is the fact that the vaccine has the characteristic of a public good. So here it's a traditional example in economics of a public good. It's the lighthouse, and instead of the light, I have put a vaccine. But here, the public good had two characteristics. It's the non-rivalry and the non-excludability. So what does it mean? Non-rival means that when you are consuming a unit of knowledge, it will not deprive somebody else from being able to consume knowledge. So the quantity is not influenced by the consumption. And what is the consequence? It is this one. The cost of another person that is using or consuming the good is equal to zero because the quantity is not affected by that. And it will have a consequence that is very important with respect to the patent system. The second property it is the non-excludability, which means that you cannot prevent someone from consuming the good. And that's why the patent is here. It is in order to enable to exclude people from the consumption. You need to pay, and thanks to this, you will be able to make people pay and to get your return over investment. But the main issue with respect to knowledge production and the theory of monopoly, it is the fact that if the additional cost is equal to zero, if you fix a price that is destined to cover your production cost, the price will be equal to zero. So there will be no incentive to innovate and to develop new knowledge, to do research and development. So the patents will enable to control price fixing and to fix a price that will be positive, that will be higher than zero. So it is here to protect investors and to enable companies and private companies to innovate. So it is the main economic justification for patenting, so for the system of patenting. But we have seen that at the same time, it will increase the price and diminish the quantity. So we can say that the patent is a system that is here also, let's say, more oriented towards supplier protection, but there is the problem of diffusion. So here it's a picture of a French minister of the health, so that has received a shot from AstraZeneca, I think. It was this one. But here, with the patent system, so we have put the balance in favor of the supply side of the market for vaccine. And I have tried to see if it was the only way to protect the innovation. And I have discovered something that I didn't know. It is the fact that at the very beginning, when the patent system has been introduced in France, so it was during the French Revolution. So in the 18th century, so in 1791. So the patent law has been put into place, but at that time, drugs and so at that time, so it was not vaccine but medicine, they had been excluded from the patent law in order to enable the state to control and to deliver medicine to the population. And this situation has lasted until after the Second World War, so 1959. And then a patent law specific to drugs has been introduced in order to maintain the kind of state monitoring on the development of medicine and drugs. There had been a lot of different possibilities with administrative visas in order to protect the research and developments in the field of health and in the field of vaccine. And the situation that we know today, in fact, it's, I would say, from a temporal point of view, it's something that is rather new. And it's, I mean, in 1968, that it has been put into place, and that the balance has been put towards producers in pharmaceutical labs. So that's the point. So there is this trade-off between supply and demand in the health, let's say, health industry in general. And I would say that under normal circumstances, we can understand that it takes 2 years before being able, on average, before being able to find a vaccine. But then you need to get the agreement, and then you will break even after 2 years. So in I mean, the current situation, as I said, there had been this acceleration of the process. So we can ask if it is, I mean, we need to maybe to stop temporarily the patent system that is concerning, I mean, dealing with this industry in order to face the pandemic. But there is the opposite view that says that it is because of the existence of the patent system that it has been, let's say, so fast for being able to discover the vaccine. So at the present time, there are at least three main ideas that are discussed. The fact to use a compulsory license in order to put an end temporarily to the patent system with a compensation for pharmaceutical labs in order to encourage the development and the production of alternatives, or to spread the diffusion of the vaccine. There is also discussions that are concerning the process of what is called a medicine patent pool. That is to say, to provide organizations such as the World Organization for Health to collect the different patents and to organize the diffusion of vaccine to the population, and especially to also to poor countries that would not be able to afford to pay, I mean, $15 for one shot. And there is discussions with respect to the property of the vaccine as an international common good for health. And due to the property of non-rivalry and non-excludability, it may be a good idea to not to make it private, but to find a way to diffuse the vaccine to a larger part of the population. So it's the current debate. So it's an open debate. So maybe we can discuss about this. And we have talked about ethics at the beginning of this session. And from an ethics perspective, this question can be enlarged to address the following one. So shall we make everything for sale? And especially when we are talking about health, so it is something that corresponds to the the previous discussion. And there are some philosophers in the US, such as Michael Walzer or Deborah Satz, that have addressed this issue, and also the French Nobel Prize in Economics, so Jean Tirole, that has written a book dealing with economics as a public good, and that is addressing such issues. So it is something that's, I mean, that is currently discussed a lot, and I also would like to get your feedback with respect to that. So thank you for your attention. I hope I have managed my time. So
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Phillipe, for your very insightful presentation. I see that Paul Deminsky has a question. I think he raised his hand. I have, by the way, a few questions also, but I give the floor to Paul and maybe to other people. And for our newcomers, Frank Jarno from the Ministry of Higher Education, and Ernst Nordveit from Bergen University in Norway. I'm sorry, we are a little bit late, so we will, but we will dwell on some questions for this session. So, Paul, you had some questions?
Yes, just thank you very much. It was very, very interesting. I have one or two comments and maybe one question. One is about, I have been listening recently to a Swiss Ministry of Health who was saying that in June 2020, there were about 100 different products on the potential vaccines on the market. Potential. And he suggested that many of the contracts had a down payment. So it's not only the price paid for the final good, but also the down payments that have been probably at full risk that have been committed by the government. So if we have a macro view, one should integrate these elements, but of course we have no data. But nevertheless, I think it exists and it should be put into this consideration. The second point is about yesterday, I think I was reading The Guardian and they were saying, Johnson remarks, saying, well, we get where we are in terms of vaccines because of greed and of capitalism. So exactly, I mean, it's the other interpretation you referred to, but it exactly yesterday news. And the third point about public good or common good, etc., you may remember 15 years ago, there was a case about AIDS treatment with South Africa. And there was a challenge by South Africa to break the patents according to the WTO regulations, think that there is a safeguard clause and we can, in times of public health emergency, we are allowed to break the patent law. And then there was a mobilization of pharmas trying to change the decision, or at least to live with the threat. And if I'm right, the solution was that they agreed to deliver to South Africa treatments at the production costs, but without, of course, but with forbidding any kind of re-exporting. So my question is, to what extent this kind of clause could be tomorrow, or this kind of situation could be repeated tomorrow or the day after tomorrow for countries like that do not produce vaccines and could have the possibility to produce them, like South Africa, India, Brazil, and so on and so on. And to what extent, my guess would be that the reaction of the pharma would be exactly the same as it was 15 years ago. Don't break the patent laws, don't break the patents. We are ready to deliver at very low prices, provided we keep the legal structure intact.
So yes, so thank you for your comments. So it's very interesting, and indeed, so for the down payment, so yes, I'm waiting for data in order to be able to do something more precise. So here we have benefited from the leaks,
Yeah.
but indeed, it would be great. And as you said, so it is the point. So thanks to greed, so we have reached this situation. So concerning the your last point, indeed, it is very interesting. It has been used also in Brazil in order to negotiate so with AIDS medicine. But as you said, so Brazil and South Africa, they have the capacity to produce. So in order to be able to compete directly with pharmaceutical lab, and in the case of Brazil, that I know a bit more, there had been also a support from government during the negotiations, and it has helped to get this to negotiate and to diminish the price for the patents. But indeed, for countries that do not have the capacity to produce medicines, and in Africa, it's 50 states, among 54. So they have to import. So their capacity to negotiate will be much more lower with respect to we are calling them the farmergents, so the countries that, such as India, that are that have this capacity to produce a vaccine. So, but indeed, it is like what we have discussed at the beginning of this session. It was the presentation dealing with the 4P. So it's I think it was the remark from Bertrand that was saying that the finance industries, they want to keep what they know, and there is this routine, and it's difficult to transform the production process. So I think it's indeed it will be because patents it enables to provide with a monopolistic situation. So you have the capacity to be a price maker, and which is very interesting for a company. So, but yes, you're right. So I think it's it will be the result. So keep what we know untouched. Yeah. So I don't know if there are other.
Is there any
comments?
other questions to Phillipe, Frouté? I had one question, but I agree with you that actually the current situation of the market for vaccines is clearly completely different to pure and perfect competition, and actually, but I was wondering. I was a little bit puzzled when you said that vaccine is a public good, because I think health is maybe a public good, or and information is a public good. I mean, innovation is maybe a public good, but I mean the vaccine itself. I don't think that you have the two conditions of the public good. And by the way, we can see it now, because clearly there is excludability to the extent that when AstraZeneca is when one company, to put it briefly, is selling to another country, then the first country is trying to retaliate and so forth, and blah blah blah.
Yes, you're right. So the question is more, shall, let's say, vaccine, shall it not be a public good, or consider as a public good? So this excludability, should we find a way to, I mean, to propose it to the whole population? But indeed, if we look at the good itself, it's not a public good. So we have not this characteristics of I think that the debate it is, but you're right. So it's rather health in general. But I mean, yeah.